Tag, you're it. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog for Monday, June the 4th, 2018. And I hope everybody had a good week and had a good weekend. And so today, I'm going to warn you, this vlog is probably going to be a little longer than usual because I've got a lot of video clips I want to insert throughout the vlog for you. And I'll explain those as we get to those. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about what I've been working on. Well, of course, I'm making quilt number 8, surprise. I'm having some problems with it. That's why I'm not showing it to you right now. I have it all pieced, and if you've seen Stephen and Walter live, and if you saw last week's vlog, you've seen the quilt top. Well, I've got it layered with the batting and the backing, and now I'm starting the quilting, and I'm doing walking foot quilting. But for some reason, my thread keeps breaking, and it's driving me mental. And now I have a whole row of quilting that I've got to pull out because it feathered on the back of the quilt, which means the threads all went weird, something wrong with the tension. I'm not really sure why I'm having this much problem or this many problems with this particular quilt. I've done walking foot quilting before and didn't really have any problems with that. The thread is a good thread. Like it's not a dollar store thread, it's a good thread that came from Ultimate Sewing. I've replaced the needle. I've re-threaded it several times, everything, and it's still breaking on me. I've played around with the tension, so I'm not sure, but I've got a couple other things I'm going to try. What I suspect is that the needle eye is too small for the thread that I'm using. Now, I haven't had that problem before, and I did check the weight of my thread, and it's the same as the weight of threads that I've used for quilting before too, and same set of needles. But I'm going to check it out and see if that makes a difference. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to do because this is taking me forever, and it's a huge quilt. So we'll see. Hopefully, this time next week, I'll be able to show you a finished quilt. We'll see. Unless I get so frustrated that I tear the whole thing up. No, not going to do that. Okay. I have done another little sewing project. One of my regular subscribers, I'm trying to think who it was. I think it might have been Jody. And if I've got that wrong, I'm so sorry for that. Because I honestly can't remember who sent this to me. Memory's not so good these days. Must be old age. But anyway, she sent me a couple of YouTube links showing a couple of ladies making fabric bags out of basically scrap material. And I thought, well, that's kind of a cool idea. So I immediately went to work and I created this. And you can see how to do this on my channel if you go to Idiot Quilter episode 12, I believe it is. No, I did not do the embroidery on here. This is made from one of the tea towels I collected when I was in Australia, and you know that I made a quilt out of these. This was, I have quite a few left over, so I like this on here, and it is an embroidered pattern, but I didn't do it. So I created this bag to hold fabric scraps, and actually it turned out pretty good, and you can do it in an hour. So this one I did first on my regular sewing machine. The second one, which is the one I feature in the Idiot Quilter video, I actually used my serger for most of it, which makes the job go a little faster. Now, I did have a couple of little problems, which near the end of that video I point out, but for the most part, it was kind of fun to do, it's easy to do, and you get a nice little bag at the end of it all. So you might want to check that out. And the link is below. I also did a mixed media tag from what I call garbage packaging. Packaging that you get on your craft supplies or any kind of packaging really. And you know, the typography, the design, the colors in this packaging are sometimes really quite nice. they're almost pieces of art unto themselves. So I'm teaching an art journaling class, my monthly one, this coming weekend, and this is what I'm going to be teaching. So I did one, and I made a video of how to do this, and this is what we're going to be doing in my class. And if you look closely, you can see the packaging that's really in the background, but you add so many other layers on top of it that you really don't notice until you really study it that you've created this out of packaging. And then I also call this a garbage tag because the things that are on here are cast-offs. They're extras from other projects. I don't throw a lot of things away. Probably should, but I don't. And so I've got extra die cuts or pictures I've cut out that I didn't use or things like that, or stuff in my stash that's been sitting there for ages and I haven't used it in a long time. I pull it out and use that as part of my garbage tag. And I think this turned out kind of cool. And these little clips up here, by the way, are the things that you find when you buy a shirt or some clothing, and they often hold the clothing together in the package with these little clips. So I just covered them in gold and stuck them on, and I thought, you know, they add a nice little embellishment. So yeah, you can make art out of garbage. It's simple as that. Although some people think my art is garbage. In the eyes of the beholder, whatever. So I've got a link to the tutorial for that down below as well. So that's about all that I've been up to in the past week in terms of creative things. So let's take a look at YouTube channel of the week, the Sparrow Quilt Company. This week's YouTube channel is a sewing and quilting YouTube channel, and it's called Sparrow Quilt Company. And what I like about this particular website, besides the fact that it shows me a lot of tips and tricks for quilting, is the fact that it's a Canadian company. They're located out in Edmonton, and they do these on Facebook. They do a lot of live presentations. Most of their videos are on the short side, which is good. They do introduce you to a lot of unique products, so it is basically a YouTube channel meant to sell their products, but they also show you how to use them, and they also show you some general tips about sewing and quilting, so it's good for that as well. Also, I have ordered, because of their videos, some of their very unique products. So if you're into quilting and sewing, you might want to check out Sparrow Quilt Company. And moving right on, because I told you there's going to be a lot of inserted video clips, let's do Person of Interest this week. And it is Anita. And Anita, for those of you that are regulars on Stephen and Walter Live, know her as Cherry 19A. And Anita, I mentioned last week, had sent me some things, or had been trying to send me some things, and we just couldn't get the technology to cooperate with us. So she was able to send me an additional little video that I was able to get, and a little note along with it. So I've put those things together so I can introduce you to the person of interest this week, who is Anita. So the person of interest of this week is Anita. Anita is a regular on Stephen and Walter Live, and she sent me two videos which I'm going to put on here for you to take a look at in a moment. But first I want to read to you what she wrote about the project that's in one of these videos. She says her base was the poem, and I went from there. I think I repainted it 2 times before I was happy, laugh out loud. Then came the layering of the poem and the vintage pieces. I had found that poem in an antique mall many years ago, and I loved it. The photo is of me as a young girl. The doily is of paper, then scrapbook paper. I also stamped a bird and some of the butterflies holding up my photo. I stamped them with Tim Holt's archival photo ink pad. The sewing motif in the scrapbook paper and the other sewing pieces represent my love for sewing as a young girl. My great aunts and grandmother taught me how to sew. I used a stencil girl stencil of roses, another favorite of mine. This piece really means something special to me. My own mother died when I was 2.5 years old. She died 3 hours after my sister was born. As you can imagine, it has left a hole in my heart ever since. The picture of the lady from the sewing pattern reminds me of my mom, and I have been told so many times in my life I look exactly like her. I did win a ribbon for this piece. The art show was judged by a professor from a local community college, and my friend told me that was with him during the judging that he said this piece spoke to him, that it had a story. I'm hoping to maybe one day have a granddaughter of my own to pass this on to. So I'm going to now play the video clips that Anita sent to me. One of them, she introduces herself, and the other is she shows you this wonderful piece of art that she's created.
Hello, Stephen, Walter, and our YouTube family. This is Anita, and I'm coming to you live from Tip City, Ohio. It is Sunday, May 27th, about 6:45 a.m. And I thought that I would try and do a short video. You may have to piece this together because I can't figure out how to get this turned back around to show you the street, but I did just want to put a face with the video. So with that, I'll try and start this over, and just bear with me. Nice to see everyone. Hello, Facebook friends and family. I wanted to show you my latest art project. I found this little children's ironing board in Tip City somewhere, maybe Midwest. Anyway, I've had it about a year. The top was just bare wood when I got it, but I fell in love with the piece, and this is what I finally did with it. So it is a mixed media art piece. I will move in closer so you can see it has old pattern pieces on it from a McCall's pattern. It has paint, it has stencils, it has ink, it has scrapbook paper, it has a picture of me as a young girl, it has a little doily, and the basis for it was this little poem, Chores of the Week. And then there is the lady from the pattern piece, because at the end of the poem it says, "But when Sunday comes, I say, lie still," to her dollies, "I'm going to church with Mother." I started and redid this piece several times. It wasn't working for me, and sometimes a piece will just speak to you on what it wants to be. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I just wanted to share it with everyone. So hope you're having a good day, and I will be taking this piece to Midwest Antiques to be in the Tip City Art Showcase this weekend, and I think all the art featured will be on display there until February 18th. Thank you so much.
And if you'd like to be a person of interest, and don't be shy, I've given you some prompt questions in the comments below, and basically you can send me anything you want. Well, within reason, we know that, but I'd be more than happy to feature you as a person of interest. And as far as the video business is concerned, if you want to send me a video, the best way to do it is probably to use either OneDrive or Dropbox. Now, if you're not familiar with either of those programs, if you have Windows 10 on your computer, you already have on there somewhere OneDrive. Essentially what it is you set up an account, and it's free. It's absolutely free, no strings attached. You set up an account online with OneDrive, and you can send a file, a large file, to that spot on the web, and then it generates an email notification with a link to it that you can send to whoever you want to receive this. And when they get the link, they can go ahead and then have access, download to their computer, your large file. This gets you around the problem or the restrictions that a lot of email providers have that limit you to how many megabytes you can attach to an email message. Dropbox works in a similar way. Both programs are free. Go on YouTube, do a search for OneDrive or a search for Dropbox, and you will find all kinds of videos showing you how to use it. And it is both programs are very easy to use. So that's one way to get around the problems of sending a very large file to me. So you might want to check that out. Okay, moving along, other resources I have in the list below. I've got the link to the latest Stephen and Walter Live, which actually is kind of a long one this week. I'm sorry, I got a little carried away talking about some issues around my mother. Two things that I'm obsessed with, basically. My quilting and the health of my mother. Okay? And I know that might be something that you're getting just a little sick and tired of hearing about, and I'm sorry about that. But I did go on a bit of a rant on this week's Stephen and Walter Live. Also, we talk about the Pride Parade that was held in our region this past weekend, and there was a whole lot of things from about Thursday to Sunday that we were involved with. And that's why I have a lot of video clips later in today's vlog to show you, because I did some short little videos of each of these events. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So the link to Stephen and Walter Live is below. And I also have a link, as I told you, to the mixed media tag, garbage packaging, and how I did that. And there is a link as well to the Sparrow Quilt Company, the YouTube of the week. And what else do I have in there? Oh yes, and there's a tutorial in the Idiot Quilter section, episode 12, on how to make that fabric bag I showed you a few minutes ago. And I have a link to this week's book, which we'll come to in a minute. So that takes us to what's pissing me off this week. Okay, I'm really not pissed off right now about anything. Surprise, surprise. And I did go on quite a bit about my mother's doctor and things like that, and on Stephen and Walter Live, so I'm not going to reiterate that. If you're interested, you can check out the rebroadcast of that. But what I will be pissed off about is the outcome of our election this week. This week in Ontario, province of Ontario, we are having an election to vote in, a new government. And that means a new premier who's the head of the government, okay? Kind of like a president or a governor, that kind of thing. It's a premier. That's what we call them here. Anyways, it's been quite a campaign for the last month. There's been a lot of mudslinging between all three of the major parties. Right now, not one of them is worthy to be the leader of our province. But the problem is, you got to put somebody in. Okay, and for me, not voting is not an option. I don't believe in that. Actually, that pisses me off when people turn around and bitch about what's going on with the government, and then you find out they never bothered to vote in the first place. Then I don't think you have any right to criticize. Shut up and put up. Simple as that. However, so who am I going to vote for? Well, I guess it's the lesser of all evils, because they're all evil. They're absolutely all evil. And I've gone on about that in other vlogs and rants too, about how I feel about politicians, which I think is how most of us feel about politicians anyways. So I have decided that I'm going to do a strategic vote. It means I'm going to vote for a party that I'm a little apprehensive about voting for, because I voted for this party once in my life before, the NDP. The NDP in the history of Ontario has only been in power once, and that was about 15 years ago, and I voted for them then, and I was doing it as a protest vote, not thinking they'd ever get in, and they got in and they screwed us. But we lived through it. And so I am going to vote NDP again this time. But the reason being is not so much that I want to see them in power, it's because I don't want to see one individual get into power, and that's this Doug Ford guy, who's running as leader of the Progressive Conservative Party. And he is exactly like Trump. Exactly like him. And I guess in Ontario, some people, if we put him in power, we haven't learned anything from the lessons that we should be learning from the Americans and with Trump, because he's exactly like him. And so I know that the Liberals, which is the party I would usually vote for, haven't got a hope in hell of getting back into power. their leader is so hated right now that in the popular opinion polls, she has like a single-digit popularity rate. The pollsters are predicting that it could be the Conservatives that get into power, or they could get in power with a minority government, or the NDP could get in power with a minority government. None of those situations are good, but I'm going to vote NDP to keep Ford from being our premier. Because if he gets into power, it's going to be a sad day. Now, like Walter says, well, we've gone through bad times before in terms of politicians, and we've lived, and it's all been reported that's going to be doom and gloom, and in the final analysis, yeah, there was a lot of negativity, but we survived, kind of a thing. And I suppose that's the Canadian mentality, that we'll just put up and wait until the next round of elections. But I definitely don't want to see this arrogant a-hole get into power. And I'm hoping a lot of people feel that way as well. However, having said that, the leader of the NDP party has never been in a position like this before, and I don't think they really know what they're doing. They're really good at being the official opposition, but because they have absolutely no experience governing the province, I think there could be a lot of problems with that too. But as I said, I'm voting for the lesser of what I consider to be the lesser of all evils, and the pickings are slim. So I guess I'm pissed off at the fact that we do not have quality leadership anymore in our governing bodies, in the parties that want to be in power, and that's really a shame. And I don't know what you can do about it, because basically politicians are not in it for the people, they're in it for themselves. It's as simple as that. Okay, so yes, I could go on all day about politics, but we all know it's the same old story everywhere in the world, basically. The people in power have power. Those of us not in power don't have any power, and we get screwed. It's as simple as that. Okay, that's cheery thought, isn't it, for a Monday morning? Let's move on. Product reviews. Okay, I ordered from Cricut some of their chipboard. Now, the chipboard is used on the Cricut Maker with the knife blade, which they came out with about a month ago. I have been doing some experimental cutting with other pieces of chipboard, and I have mixed results. For the most part, I think it does a pretty good job, but there are some tricks that you need to employ to get a decent cut. So I thought I'd try their own brand of chipboard, and I haven't tried it yet, but I bought 2 packages of it, and they say to unwrap it when you first get it and let it sit out unpackaged for 24 hours. Apparently climate affects the chipboard. I guess if you live in a really humid climate, it absorbs a lot of moisture and it swells up, and that'll affect the cutting. So I have done that. It's sitting, I'm looking over at the side here, it's sitting over on one of my other workbenches, and it's been sitting there for a couple of days, and maybe today I'll get to it and I'll give it a try and see how it works, and I'll let you know. The other thing is not a product to review, but it's what's new. Well, I've been trying to get my fabric accepted by Northcott so it can be, mass produced and available to people. Well, I got an email from them this week, and I'll read it to you. This is from someone called Deborah Edwards, who was considering my fabric designs. And she says, "Hello, Stephen. Thank you for your submission." Oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Thank you. That was a previous email. If you remember, I had sent it to her, and I had changed them so that they were mirrored kaleidoscopically, sort of using Photoshop, and she asked if I could send pictures of the original artwork unaltered, and I did. And this is the answer I got back. "Hello, Steve. Thank you for sending images of your designs unmirrored. At this time, I would not be pursuing this look, but in the future, I may. Let me read that again. But in the future, I may. So we'll keep you on file and revisit in January. Have a great day. Deborah Edwards, Design Director for Northcott." Okay, yes, my initial reaction is I'm disappointed. My second reaction is I'm not surprised. I really didn't think they would go for it. I'm not an artist, really. I like to think of myself sometimes as being an artist, but I've been rejected a lot. And to be honest, part of me turns around and I've seen the things that are put up in art galleries and I look at and go, this they consider art? And yet my stuff, which I think is better than what they're showing there, is not. But then that's ego. So I don't have any formal training in art. I don't have any formal training in design. I was an English teacher, okay? And I'm used to rejection, okay? So it's okay. Off my back, you know, like water on a duck. My problem is sometimes I get myself a little worked up and excited about the potential, and I'm usually let down with it. And I know this, and that's just me. That's just me, okay? And so I'm not going to sit here and wallow in self-pity. It is what it is. Maybe they'll revisit it in January. I don't think they will. Maybe I'll seek out other companies and see what they have to say. I mean, after all, this is only one person's opinion. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll just continue manufacturing my fabric through Spoonflower for myself. And at least if anything I know is when I use that material in a quilt, and if people look at it and go, wow, that's really cool, then I'll say to them, yeah, I made the fabric. I designed the fabric. And that's going to make my quilts unique. Okay? At least that's how I'm justifying this rejection in my head. Okay? But don't cry for me, Argentina, because I'm not worried about any of this, you know. Yeah, so there's lots of things in your life that let you down. My life was not depending upon getting my fabric manufactured, okay? It was just, did it on a whim, sort of a thing. And as I said, I may not necessarily be done pursuing this avenue. You know, you can't just give up. So I may seek out some other places and see what happens with those. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, moving on. Book review for this week. This one I had forgotten completely about. Amplified Art by Kass. And this is basically looks at techniques. I've got some pages marked in here that I must have liked or something. So collage kind of thing, you know, black and white techniques. What's this one? Compositions in black and white. It's really about design, but also technique. And there's some really inspirational pictures in here of what you can do with some of these designs. It's a very colorful book. It's glossy. It's a very nice book just to look through for inspiration. So it's called Amplified Art. It cost $30.99 Canadian when I bought it, but I've put a link below to Amazon.ca, and I think you can get it now for about $17. So you might want to check that out. And for those of you that are Americans, go to Amazon.com, put in this title, you'll find it there too. I'm pretty sure you will. So if you're looking for something that's nice to look at, the pictures are great, you want inspiration, but you also want to learn some new techniques or try some different, you know, spins on some more standard techniques, I think this book you might find very useful. Got to go back and look through it. That's the problem. I buy these books, I mark some pages, and I never get back to them with it because something else, I'm like, you know, oh, squirrel kind of a thing. Okay, so inspiration ideas. So I have done, I'm going to do a little background technique with the people in my art journal class this week. I always start the class off in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, showing them a background technique that they can use in their art journals. And I usually give them a gessoed tag to try the background technique on. And they've been building up a collection of these tags, a swatch list, and I give them each time I do the class, I update a write-up about each one of the techniques that I've shown them to date, and give that to them to add to their collection, because I have a lot of people who come faithfully every class. So they're getting like quite a few background technique ideas. So this week I decided to try something as a mask. Now this idea was inspired by something I saw in one of the previous books that I had reviewed for you. And it's really simple. And it's great if you've got an ugly page or a background on a page that you really don't like. It didn't turn out. And it's easy to fix it. First of all, you could just gesso over the whole thing and start again. But there might be elements in that page that you want to preserve. So all you do is you take some sticky notes, cut them up into shapes or just tear them randomly, stick the pieces down to this page that you've created that you don't like, and take some gesso and very lightly go over your whole pages, including the sticky notes, with the gesso. While the gesso is still somewhat tacky, not completely dry, just very carefully pull up the pieces of sticky note, and those act as a mask. And so you'll have a pattern underneath that picks up on some of the color and elements that you had in the ugly page, and it has a whole new life to it. Now you can use the same technique by just putting color onto a new art journal page and then cutting up mask pieces out of, and it doesn't have to be sticky notes, it can be, you know, any kind of piece of paper you've got, and just stick them around either in a formalized pattern or just randomly, and you'll get some interesting designs. So it's really easy to do. And I'm going to be teaching the people in my art journaling class that technique, but I also want to share it with you as well. Now I don't have a video showing how to do this, but if you follow the way I just described it, it's as simple as that. There's nothing to it. You know, cut up a piece of paper, slap it down on something that's got color, and paint over it with gesso, and away you go. Simple as that. Okay, so new segment. A lot of you seem to be interested in what's in my drawers. Pun intended. So I'm starting a new sequence, and this is the first one today, and I'm going to insert it right here, right now. So in this episode of What's in My Drawers, I wanted to feature something that actually has not been in my drawers very long. And that is really good English. No, what I want to talk about are these markers, and these crayons. And the reason I want to talk about these is because I came across these in a store that just recently opened up in my area that is a Japanese store. It's not really a dollar store, but the things that they have in it, and there's a wide variety of things they have in it. They have stationery, they have makeup, they have electronic devices, food, are at really cheap prices. So in a sense, it's like a Japanese dollar store. It's called Miniso or Miniso. I'm not sure how you say it, but it's M-I-N-I-S-O. So when I was there, I discovered this display of markers, and they were 3 for $2.99. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. It says it marks on anything, and they're water-based. It says shake several times, press the tip down for a while, recap the pen tightly after use, keep away from children, made in China. So I thought I would give these a go and see how they work out, because they're a ridiculously low price. I'm going to talk about these things in a minute. So we'll start with these. So they had them in a variety of colors. Now one thing, I'm not really that thrilled with their colors. I did have a black one, but out of all of these, the black one, when I got it home and it was sealed, I opened it up and the little nib, this part, was missing. So that went in the garbage. I didn't bother to take it back to the store because I figured for 3 for $2.99 wasn't a big deal. So let me just take a fresh piece of paper here and I'll show you how these work. Now, just like a paint pen, they're kind of structured that way, although I'm not sure what these are filled with. Actually, it says it's a pigment ink. I just read it on the side of that. So let's see. So I should probably do this on a piece of white paper. So here's a large tag that has some gesso on it. They are watery, as you can see. But really, they're almost like a watercolor. Well, they do say they're water-based. How are they for blending? Not that great. I see a little bit of movement on these as well. So you look at, actually, I don't know if this is picking it up, but if you look at the blue, it's actually running. So they are very soupy. Actually, though, it could give a really neat effect. Let's add the gray. Oh, look, you can see it moving. It's kind of like acrylic paint pouring. This is a white. Now, actually, the white I found seems to write over top of various layers in an art journal page, and that's one thing I liked about this, and that's why I also got the black, but I'll need to buy another black maybe. Now, I have no idea how long these will last as far as how much stuff is in here. I don't imagine all that long because they're cheap. But actually, I'm kind of liking this effect that's happening right now. If you can see, holding the camera. See, I'm letting it run. And that's kind of interesting. Now, I wonder what happens if I give it a little spray of water. Ooh. Okay. So this actually has potential for making backgrounds and things like that. Now, the only thing is, I don't know if once they're dry, whether they become water reactive again. So let's just see. I'll take just a second here and hit it with the heat tool just to see if I can get it dry and see if it'll reactivate when I hit it with water. I think it probably will, because they advertise these or say on here that they are, well, no, they say they're water-based, but they say they're sunproof and waterproof. So that's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to set this aside for a minute because I don't want to make this a really long clip. A little more heat. I'm just going to set it aside and we'll come back to it in a moment. I'm going to show you these other ones that I bought as well. Okay, let's just put that aside for a moment. And I bought these. Now these claim to be alcohol-based ink in these, and they have a brush tip and they have a fine point tip. So there's the fine point tip, and there's the brush tip. So they almost look in some ways like Spectrum Noir or Copics. I don't imagine they're of the same quality because, again, these were 3 for $2.99, and these were the only colors they had, which are pretty bad colors. I have a feeling that depending on when you go in there, the colors change all the time, whatever they have available. So let's just try the chisel tip. Now the color on these is fairly brilliant. Now they are alcohol, so I've managed to reactivate with the alcohol in that one, so that's why I'm getting that all kind of streaky. Now I wonder if they smell. Yes, you can smell the alcohol in them. Let's just hit it with the heat gun. Now, these should be permanent. What's it say on them? It says alcohol-based ink. That's all it says on them. So that's dry now. So if I hit it with water, it shouldn't do anything. And it doesn't. The water seems to beat up on it. Let me grab a cloth here. So yeah, they're not affected by water, but let's give it a little dry off here. If I hit it with a little bit of alcohol, I wonder if the alcohol will reactivate them. And let's see if I have a little bit of alcohol here that I can use. Be right back. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found some alcohol blending solution, which is the stuff you use with the alcohol inks from Ranger. And when you use them with their alcohol inks, it causes the inks to reactivate. So let's just see. Yes, they do reactivate when you hit them with alcohol. But again, you could probably create some interesting backgrounds using this. And one advantage is that if you're using it in a mixed media piece where you have layers of wet medium, that once these dry, and if you're using wet medium, as long as it's not alcohol, I don't think they will reactivate. That's kind of cool, that effect. Okay, so again, 3 for $2.99. Cheap. Now, the next one are these. These are meant for kids. You got a box of 12 crayons, they called them. They say they're washable crayons in bright colors, and they were $3.99 for this box. So again, my idea here is, are they like a water-soluble crayon? Will they have the same kind of effect? So let's scribble some color on. Well, they go on very smooth. Very smooth. They will smear, okay, when you put them with your fingers. So you could use that for blending. Let's add just one more color. Okay, I've got a water brush, but a paintbrush dipped in water would do the same thing. So let's get this going. And let's just see if I can move the colors around. And yes, I can. So again, you could use these. These are a really cheap replacement for something like Neon Color 2, which are very expensive, or the Tim Holtz Distress crayons. Mind you, those are high quality products, so you're going to get a better quality. I see that the water sort of is beating up on here, but that could be from the gesso. Let's just hit it with the heat gun. And I imagine if I was to squirt more water on these once this is dry, that these will not be water or waterproof. I think it'll probably just reactivate them. So let's just give this another few seconds here with the heat gun. Okay, let's give it the finger rub test. Nope, doesn't come off when I rub it with my finger as it did when I first laid it down. A little drop of water there, get that off. So, spray bottle water, let's hit it. Yeah, they reactivate even after they're dry, which I pretty much suspected they would, but that's not really a major problem. You could do a really neat background with these. Ooh, that's kind of cool too. Look at that. I'm getting a bit of texture there. So that's fun. So then you could dry that. So as long as you weren't going to put other wet medium on top of them, they would serve as a background. Now let's go back to the first one I did. Let's clean this mess up. Now these were the markers, and it's perfectly dry right now. Let's see, well, is it? Yeah, pretty much. I put my finger in a little water. Let's see if they reactivate. They're supposed to be permanent. And yeah, as far as them running right now, they're not. Let's take a clean finger. Yeah, they are permanent. So, yeah, they're permanent when they're dry. So, that's what was in my drawers this week. I don't know how often I will use these products because they are cheap, but they do make some interesting backgrounds. And, you know, if you happen to see these in a store near you or something like that, they might be worth the investment. As I said, the store was called Miniso. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but that's it. And, you know, for $2.99, $3.99, remember, $2.99 for 3 of these, 12 for $3.99, these crayons, I don't think you could go wrong. At least they'll add something to your arsenal of products. Okay, so that's this week's What's in My Drawers. Okay, so I hope you like that, and let me know if you want to see more things that are in my drawers. All right, events of the past week. It was a busy week, especially come Thursday and right through. So Thursday night, well, no, first of all, Tuesday night, I had my first sewing class about my serger, how to use it. Brilliant class. I learned so much in 2.5 hours in that class. I'm so looking forward to the next part of this series, which happens this Tuesday night. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. This was really well worth it. I'm so glad this class did not get canceled. I've enjoyed it so much so far that I've signed up for a more advanced class using your serger. The only reason I hadn't signed up for it before is because it said in the description they were going to make a skirt. And I really don't need a skirt. And I'm really not that interested in learning how to make a skirt. However, I was talking to the lady who will be doing the instruction, and she said, no, we're not necessarily doing a skirt. Rented lips. They'll do whatever the majority of the class wants to do. I guess one time they did fitted sheets. Well, I'm really about as thrilled about fitted sheets as I am about a skirt. But I look at it this way. No matter what the project is we do, I'm going to learn advanced techniques. I'm going to learn more about my serger. So that'll be worth it. So if I make a skirt, I make a skirt. It's as simple as that. So I asked her if there was any more room in the class, and she said there were a couple of spots, and so I'm signed up for that. So that's going to be interesting as well. Thursday night, the curator, the chief curator at the Robert McLaughlin Gallery, which is the art gallery I volunteer with, was having her retirement party. Or they were having a retirement party for her. She's been there for 28 years, 28 and a half years or something like that, and she's finally going to retire. So we went to that. It was very nice. Some very nice things were said about the curator, and she will be hard to replace. I think they do have a replacement for her, but they haven't announced who that person is. And I think it's going to give a whole different feel to the art gallery. But, you know, I've never known this art gallery without this Linda, who's the chief curator or just retired from that position. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with the art gallery when a new person takes over the reins. Then on Saturday, one of the people, his name is Wayne, who is on the education team that I've worked with, and he's been on the education for years and years and years. He is an artist himself, and he had a show. His show opened at the Station Gallery, which is in the town next door to us, Whitby, And so we want to go and support him on Saturday for his official opening of his show. And we did, and I have a clip of his artwork as well. Now, he was specifically asked to submit work that showed, that was related to his indigenous roots, because Wayne, although if you met him you would never think he was an indigenous person, he does have indigenous standing, which I think means you have to have at least an 1/8 of native blood, or however they do that, and I think he's about half. But either way, I've seen his abstract work before and it's gorgeous. These pieces are really interesting. You can see the indigenous influence in them. Personally, I like some of his other works a little better. I think his other works are a little bit more dramatic, but these are very nice as well. So we want to support him, and so we did. We went there, and I've got a very short little video clip about that I'll insert in a moment. And of course, on Sunday we had Durham Pride. This is our annual LGBTQ Pride Parade in our region. And this year it was in a different venue. It was in another town. Usually it's in Oshawa, where I live, but this was in Ajax, which is another community that's closer to Toronto. It's just west of us. And they had it this year. Now, to be honest, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. Because, well, for example, at RMG Fridays, on Friday night, I skipped over that. On Friday night, we were at the Art Gallery again because it was the monthly RMG Fridays. And it was supposed to be Pride themed. And then I guess there was a lot of problems with whoever was in charge of coordinating all of that with the people at the Art Gallery. To the point, and I didn't get to hear the whole story, but it seemed that the Pride Committee, or that part of the Pride Committee that was supposed to be working with the Art Gallery people, pissed them off. To the point where I think the Art Gallery severed their ties with them, which is really sad because they've done it in past years. But I get it, because I'm sorry, but Pride committees are usually dysfunctional. There's all kinds of infighting in all of them. I mean, you can say the same about any organization, I think, but there just seems to be a lot more drama when it comes to the gay and lesbian, bi, trans, whatever community in planning events. So anyways, it didn't happen. There was supposed to be a drag show as well. That's on the same night, I think, at the library, which is just over past a driveway from the Art Gallery. That didn't happen either, all for probably the same reasons. I don't know what the reasons were. I shouldn't really say because I don't know. I just know there's definitely some bad feelings between the Art Gallery and the Pride Committee. So for whatever. So hopefully maybe next year things will be better. But anyways, from that, I wasn't expecting a whole heck of a lot. Also last year, the Pride Parade was sad, and you've heard me say this before. It was literally on a sidewalk as opposed to the road. It lasted 30 seconds. Yes, 30 seconds by the time the beginning of it passed me and it got to the end. So I was figuring this year, not going to be much better. I was wrong. It was a little better turnout, and the parade route was a little long, a little over ambitious, I thought, especially because the two streets they were on were main thoroughfares. One of them is a highway through this town that they had it in. But anyways, I was pleasantly surprised by the turnout for that, and you'll see it in the video exactly what I mean. And I have the entire parade. It doesn't run long, believe me, on video. And then they had vendors and things and entertainment set up in a park at the end of the parade route. There wasn't that much as far as vendors are concerned. They have a beer garden as well, and they had entertainment. We don't hang around for that kind of thing. We did a little walk down it. I've got some video showing that. And then we went home. So, because we had to do Stephen and Walter live for Sunday. So anyways, and that was the weekend. So I'm going to insert right here now this, and it is kind of a lengthy video clip because I've got all those events that I just talked about all together.
I don't want that.
I do. So this is my colleague in the education department at RNG. His show is opening today. He has indigenous roots, and this is what his abstract art is based on. And we're here because he's having this opening in a few minutes. And there's free food. Can we go across?
Hello, thank you. I'm really good. Hello. Thank you for supporting us.
It's okay. Well, see if the cops weren't afraid that we don't. Yeah. Thanks. It's got flakes and everything. At the end of it? What? Got more coming?
Yeah.
Wave your flag. Hey, flag, wave your flag. Okay, I'm trying to get you all in the shot here.
All right.
And what would a parade be without a bus?
Yeah. Happy Pride. Oh, Dash. What's Dash?
Oh, Dash. See here.
No. Oh wait, that's his father. That's
Bracelets! No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. You want a pin?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Oh, is this Kiev? Oh, there's Kiev right there. Very. Good.
Hello.
Hello.
Candies. Okay, they're always good. Thank you.
Yeah, candies are always good.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep, too many things in my hand. Thanks. Oops, I'm shooting all over the place here.
Oh yeah.
Good, oh, yeah.
Happy Pride, guys. Water?
No,
I'm
fine,
fine.
thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
You just get more things here than
Yeah, I
here.
know.
Uniform.
Union.
Uniform.
Uniform, yeah. It's a union.
Yeah, it's the CAW. That's what
Yeah.
it's called now.
Yeah, I know. More coming in.
Yeah. It's a little longer
A
than
lot longer than last year's. Oh, I'm surprised.
Well, maybe they get more participants out here.
Maybe.
All right.
Thanks for coming out. Oh, sweetie, I've been out a long time. At the end of
I
it?
think that's the end of it. RBC.
Let's see. Yep, that must be in.
All right.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride! That's the end of that. Yeah, go up the other end.
More band, some orange drag, and we're finishing up with Witch Prophet. So I'm gonna get off the mic for like 2 minutes, and then we're gonna come back with a band. So don't go anywhere. Get a spot.
So what's coming up this week? Well, another sewing class, as I've already mentioned. And of course, the biggie for this week is the provincial election. Exciting. Tomorrow I have to take my mother off to have blood work done. And then I'm going to take her to do a little shopping and to lunch, kind of a thing. And yeah, that's about it. Don't think we've got anything coming up this weekend either. But who knows? When you're retired, every day's a new adventure. So I hope every day is a new adventure for you this week as well. And we'll see you on Stephen and Walter Live this coming Sunday. And now it'll start, instead of at 4 o'clock, it's going to start at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, because I'm doing my art journaling class on Sunday. And that runs until about 4 o'clock. So we'll be an hour later this week. And yeah, so have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.